Now, 5 people have tested positive for COVID-19 out of 204 samples at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital. Ashanti Regional Director of Health, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, is addressing the media now. To bring us up to speed on the details of the 5 who have tested positive out of the total of 204. Let's go back to Kumasi now, and we'll hear Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran also speak. He is in charge of private health facilities. He's the chairman of that association, as well as the CEO of CAT, and they have been speaking.
But our press conference. Mesha say I can say President or Kasa will lift and I will unlock the lockdown. I don't interest say yare no free or man you. Yare ne daso or man you. Na ibinomo NTS I think say your cost down to the grassroots. May you say, although you unlock no, and no interest say, Yariano, I say a coswa, ye Niama, you see, ya the boy who by say about Hoyansa, a dissemination in Sua Etne, at the Baoko, and I say you use your sanitizers, and I say. Yem fayen sa enkoye nim enkaye nim omra yan ho yen sa na say yen use sanitizer na se share no yes yem bo face mask so wo pia bo face mask no eno eboa yen efrin there ko yen ho say ya no na ye hwene no so no a private part nti pia yan kata so ama aboya ho ban efri sa yarwe yu ya wo ankrankra aya sabia no so no ye ne ye nuanom a wo aban aya sabia no ebom eye adwuma sa ye beku etia sa coronavirus ye enunti no ya ye nhihye wo ankrankra ya sabia bia sa wudu ho a Nyama yede atukwem say yebe hwe na obi a yesusu say bi obewo yare ni bi no yama no akobe bi fufura na ya isolate no na ya frame ya be test no ya test no wie na positive so a yede na ko baby a ye hwe sa ayaresa no ana treatment center no we nyina ye niama ye de atokum sa niama nyina so no e de kakakra eba nti ye sika kakra ye wono ye de atoto sa niama ibi a friend PPEs no de say aban announce say yes PPEs bi wo ya say ye bi wo omayim na ye gidi say ye ya na ye available a eba ye region ha ye adwuma wo ankrankra aya sabia no so no ye sa ebeka ye chefa ye ne aban so edi nkomo efa sa tax exemption a okasa odebema apomde edwumayefo a yekun etia sa yarwe na yedi say na Ministry of Health na Ministry of Finance ye penifo a ewo enkran ene omo edi ho nkomo ama etumi de gukrata so na GRA so etumi ama sa exemption ne bewie no meka kire yenyina ɔman mu nyinaa sɛ yɛmbɔ mmɔden a sɛ yɛbɛdi nsɛm a yɛaka kyerɛ yɛn sɛ yɛnyɛ na yɛmfa mbɔ yɛn ho ban no na ɛno bɛboa ma yɛn nyinaa together yɛabɔ yɛn ho ban ɛfiri saa nyarewa yi nkanka yɛn a yɛwɔ front line sɛ yɛn a yɛyɛ adwuma wɔ ayaresabea ɛne nsɛmtwerɛfoɔ a mokɔ mmeammea mokɔ fa news ne adeɛ ba no.
And we've been listening to the chairman of the Private Health Facilities Association giving us some detail in Akan on what they've been doing as far as COVID-19 is concerned. He says they have procured PPEs from their internally generated funds. They are hoping that once government moves in to distribute the PPEs at the regional level, they would get their portion, so to speak, of those equipment, and then they can intensify efforts that they have already put in place to make sure that COVID-19 is not spreading further. We'll return to Kumasi for more, but the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, that's KCCR, says it is re-strategizing to expand its testing capacity due to increased samples of COVID-19. Now, with a current capacity of 800 a day, up from the initial 100, the health installation receives over 2,000 samples a day. Scientific Director Professor Richard Odami-Phillips says the center has had to prioritize testing for those hospitals as a result. Prince Opia has more in this report.
Before Ghana's case count began to hit the hundreds, KCCR was testing and releasing results of maximum 100 samples between 6 and 12 hours. Officials say due to the current pressure caused by increased numbers, results are now ready within 48 hours. The center is therefore re-strategizing to increase its capacity to do more than 800 a day, with special attention to persons at the hospitals. Here is Professor Odami-Phillips, Scientific Director for KCCR.
So we are trying. Sometimes people claim the results are not coming quicker. Previously, within 6 hours, 12 hours, you have your results. But there is a lot of pressure. Everybody wants his result the next day, whether the person is well or is sick. I tell them that, they shouldn't worry. Because those who are sick, for me, there has to be a priority for them. Those that really need it urgently have it. But as much as possible, we try that, like within 48 hours, we try to get it done. But we are receiving a lot of samples now, sometimes about 2,800 samples in a day. And we can do about 800 tests. We started with below 100, and then people will ask us, we say, okay, we can hit between 300 and 500. Now we're already on 800, and we are thinking about how to push it higher, because people need it quicker. So every day we are re-strategizing, rethinking how we approach it. But
Professor Odami-Phillips is concerned about fake news, especially on social media. He observes such misinformation has pushed many people to report to hospital with symptoms unrelated to COVID-19.
You need to find a good book to read, watch good things, and not be reading the fake news that is passing on social media. And I mean, it's killing people mentally, because they think that things are happening to them when nothing is happening to them. I mean, I've had friends who have called me saying that they think the way their body is feeling, they think they've got COVID. I say,
the KCCR Scientific Director spoke to Love News when Snapiaba donated medical supplies to the research center in Kumasi South Hospital. Eriko Fobano is head of deposits and marketing for Snapiaba.
This is part of a number of institutions that we are donating to, and we are doing so in a bid to contribute to the fight against this pandemic. We believe that it is not for any single entity to say that on their own they can do it, but each and every one of us, be it an institution, be it an individual, will have to pitch in so that collectively we can fight this pandemic as best as we can.
Snapiaba donated 200,000 Ghana cedis worth of medical equipment and supplies to the Mamprobi Polyclinic, Kumasi South Hospital and KCCR, which are at the forefront of the pandemic. Prince Apia reporting.
And let's return to Kumasi, to that press conference which is underway. The Regional Director of Health is addressing the media.
Good morning. On behalf of the Regional Health Administration, I would like to thank all of you for coming. We've gone through some few updates. Now we are looking at the way forward after the lockdown. As the President said, all the protocols and guidelines we've given since the outbreak of COVID-19 still holds. In fact, the lockdown was just a measure to strengthen the protocols and then the guidelines. None of the protocols and the guidelines have been discarded at all. So we have to make sure that we observe all the rules and regulations. What we are going to do right now is to strengthen surveillance. And as part of strengthening surveillance, we've come out with certain key activities or strategies that we are going to embark on. Ashanti region and Greater Accra has been classified as a high burden region. In fact, the whole country has been zoned. We have 4 zones. Ashanti and Greater Accra belong to zone 1, that is high burden. Then depending on the number of cases that you get, up to those regions without cases, they are the low burden. So for the high burden regions, we are going to enhance surveillance. And as part of the enhancement of the surveillance, we are going to do active contact tracing to isolate, test, and then follow up all the positive cases. So anybody who is identified as a positive case will be isolated. And following the isolation, we have what we call mandatory quarantine and then self-isolation at home. We will have to, the medical team is going to assess the home environment. If the home environment is not good enough and will promote infection, then we will move into what we call mandatory quarantine, where we've been able to secure facilities for this mandatory quarantine. They will first be tested, and then we'll follow them up for 14 days. After 14 days, they will be tested again. Those who will be negative will be discharged. Those who are positive will be followed up to see whether they are going to exhibit any signs and symptoms. That is for the contacts. We also have what we call the mass screening. Under the mass screening, we have certain hotspots in the region. The hotspots are areas where we've isolated cases. And then all the households around where we've isolated cases will go into what we call voluntary testing. All of them will be tested, but this one is voluntary. And then those who are positive will be enrolled, as we said, and then followed up. We are also considering testing high-risk groups. The high-risk groups are the frontline workers, drivers, taxi drivers, Uber drivers, market women, and those who are selling the market. These are the people who usually come into contact with a lot of people. And then they will also be enrolled into what we call the voluntary testing. So they will first be, it's voluntary, but they will be tested, and then those who are positive will be enrolled. And then the routine surveillance will continue. Under the routine surveillance, if you have any signs and symptoms, fever, cough, difficulty in breathing, what you need to do is that you call the number 112. You don't have to come to the hospital. We will come to where you live, and then the medical team will interact with you, and then if it's necessary, we will do the testing, and then we'll follow you up. For the cases, we've categorized them into asymptomatic, mild, moderate, severe, and critical. For those who are asymptomatic, they are the most difficult ones to deal with because they don't have any signs and symptoms, yet they are positive. And these are the people who can easily transmit the infection to you because they themselves don't know that they are sick. And unfortunately for us, this constitutes between 70 to 80% of all the cases that we've identified so far. That's the reason why we are saying that despite the fact that the lockdown is not there, if you don't adhere by the rules and then the regulations, you don't know the person that you are coming into contact with. So as you sit in the car, as you go to the market, you may meet some of these asymptomatic carriers, and if you are not wearing your mask and you are not observing the social distancing, then it's likelihood that when you come into some of these people, they can transmit the infection to you. So we will all have to assume that any person that we are coming into contact with and we are not observing the rules and the regulations, it's likely to give us what? The infection. So we'll have to be very, very serious on this. The next is those who are presenting with the mild symptoms. They are also very few. We have a facility in Kumasi South. We've been able to expand it from 8 bed to 20 bed now. So those who are mild, those with mild symptoms and those with mild to moderate symptoms will be admitted at the treatment center at the Kumasi South Hospital. Those with severe, critical, and then moderate to severe symptoms will be admitted to Kofanoti Teaching Hospital and will be managed. All of them will be given the opportunity, and then after 14 days, we will review them, they will be tested, and then those who are positive will be followed up again. Those who are negative will be discharged. So that's the procedure that we are going to follow from here. The most important is that the rules and regulations still applies. The lockdown, we all admitted, was difficult, especially for the poor and then the vulnerable. So it's out of very good wisdom that the president decided that he's going to unlock the lockdown. But as he said, that is not the reason why we should assume that the fight is over. The fight is not over at all. This is the time that we need to strengthen the fight and then make sure that we all adhere by the rules and the regulations. And when we do that, it's likely that we may contain the infection. So number one is that social distancing is the key. And anytime you come closer to any person, less than 2 meters, then you know that you are in trouble. So if you don't have anything to do at all, please make sure that you stay at home. Because anytime you step out of your house, then it means that you are exposing yourself to what? To risk. The proportion of asymptomatic carriers are many. And it's not likely that you will identify them because they themselves don't know that they are sick because they are not showing any signs and symptoms. The wearing of face masks is so important because, as we all know, the disease is spread by droplet infection. So anytime you wear face mask, it protects you better because it's likely that at least you will be better protected than not wearing face mask at all. We have several types of face masks. Even handkerchief that is appropriately made is a face mask. You cannot wear it. You don't need to put a lot of burden on what we are already using in the hospitals. But if you can also manufacture your own face mask, I think it will be appropriate. But make sure that anytime you are stepping out of your home, you should put on face mask to protect you. A lot of countries have done that, and they've come out with a lot of success stories. I believe that we also have to adhere to this. So the social distancing, the wearing of face masks, and adhering by all the rules and regulations, hand washing, using sanitizers and other things is the key. I believe that even without the lockdown, if we adhere by all these rules, then the principle is about the same and nothing will happen, and we will all help to fight COVID-19. We would like to thank you for coming. Wish you God blessings. Thank you.
And so that's the Regional Health Director, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkran, telling us what the region is doing. We know that 5 have tested positive out of 204. Essentially, he's saying that surveillance will be strengthened and people who have to go into mandatory quarantine as well as self-isolation will be made to do so with strict supervision. Now, police in the Western region is investigating a case of illegal fishing that turned fatal. A fisherman in Akweda near Diskov has lost his hand and suffered severe injuries to his face, requiring plastic surgery to look close to normal again. Now, the twist to the story is that while the victim is insisting he was attacked by a shark while on fishing expedition, health experts at the Kwanta Regional Hospital say the signs of his body tell a different story. JoyNews editor Martha Kwok-Krensel has more in the following report.
Akweda is a fishing community near Disco in the Ahanta West district of the Western region. Isaac Adu set out on a fishing expedition. But as our sources tell us, Mr. Adu employed illegal means to fish.
On Tuesday, 3rd March, I decided to go fishing and fend for the family. I went with 2 others. We were carrying our fishing gear while the outboard motor was at the rear of the canoe. When we got a catch, we came together to pull the net. While we were doing so, a big fish hit the canoe, so I jumped into the water to get it since I thought it was dead. A shark attacked me in the process. I was lucky I could swim. My brothers eventually rescued me.
Blast fishing or dynamite fishing is the practice of using explosives to stun or kill schools of fish for easy collection. This often illegal practice can be extremely destructive to the surrounding ecosystem, as the explosion often destroys the underlying habitat. The frequently improvised nature of the explosives used means danger for the fishermen as well, with accidents and injuries. That is what is suspected to have occurred in Isaac Adu's case. Early February, JoyNews sources say a similar activity caused the death of another fisherman who was hurriedly buried without autopsy.
I did not use dynamite. Those accusing me should come forward. I jumped into the water alone. No one knows what happened to me there. Even my brothers realized I was in danger when they saw the blood in the water.
Traumatologist Dr. Teria Siame and the team found Isaac Adu during their routine ward rounds at the Kwanta Regional Hospital. He recollects what he saw.
We went to the emergency room at the Kwanta Regional Hospital on our usual ward rounds, and then we met this patient who was in a very terrible shape in the sense that we realized that he was conscious, all right, but we realized that the right hand had been chopped off, and the right side of the eye has also been avulsed. Avulsion means it's like you have beaten it out, and the part of the teeth is even showing from the lost tissues in the right side of the face. And then you have these multiple punctured wounds all over the body, from the chest, from the upper arms and the lower arms. And so normally what we do is we take a history, and then we examine the patient, and then we do some investigations, and then we make a diagnosis. So from the history, we were told that he said he was a fisherman, and during the fishing expedition, he was bitten by a shark.
Dr. Teria Siame, however, says the injuries on the victim's body do not indicate a shark attack, as he is insisting was the case.
When we anesthetized him, we realized that the findings were quite different from what we were expecting, because normally for a shark bite, we were not expecting all those little punctured wounds all over the body, which appear like pellets from a bullet pellets all over the body. So we started wondering. So there we thought it could be something else. And so what we did was we cleaned the wound, and then created a flap, and then we we covered the amputated limb, the right hand, around the forearm. And then we also tried to close the lost tissue around the right side of the face. I honestly think otherwise. I don't think it's a shark, because of those punctured wounds all over, like pellets. If you've done this work for some time, when people are shot with pellets, you see pellets, you see punctured wounds all over the body. So it's like something that got blasted in pieces, and then the pieces, created punctured wounds all over the body of the patient. So I believe the rest of the work has to be done by the police officers, the investigators. But for me, I've seen patients who have been bitten by sharks, and I have my doubts.
The police in the Western region say a complaint has been made against Isaac Edu and 2 others for conspiracy to commit crime using explosives or dynamite for fishing, which falls under illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing practices, IUU. Mr. Edu was discharged on 7th April 2020 from the Effiong Kwanta Regional Hospital with a referral letter to Kolebu Teaching Hospital for plastic surgery. For Joy News, my name is Martha Crensel Aqua.
Now, I've been joined by Professor Francis Nunu. He's an associate professor of fishery science at the University of Ghana. Prof, you have watched the story. With your experience with fishing, what are your initial comments?
Thank you very much. My initial comments are that if it was really sharks, you will see shark bites, marks of the teeth of the shark on the body. And so I sort of will agree with the medical doctors that you expect such signs on the body. Looking at the video, you can see parts of the body being black and some dots and things on the body. Shark bites, you see marks of the teeth of the shark on the body, either on the hands, the face, everywhere. Yeah. But we don't see anything like that. Yeah. So I'll be skeptical if it was a shark. And the shark will go for you totally, will go for you. And you, the human being, the type of sharks that we have in the Western region, you can't stand it. A large chunk of your body will go. not only your fingers.
What exactly do you suspect as far as illegal fishing is concerned?
I'm suspecting blast fishing, that is fishing with explosive. You know, the local people have ways of preparing their own explosive. They use carbide and various things that they buy from the market, and the gunpowder from the local people. They manufacture their own blasting mechanisms, and they are crafty and they are good at preparing these things. And it comes with different strengths. So I think that it's something that went wrong with its preparation and with the time of explosion, etc. That it was not deployed carefully as he wanted to do. And these accidents are common. They are not new, they are common. And you go to the fishing communities and you see people with such cuts and things on the fingers, and you can tell that they have been fishing with explosives.
How pervasive is this? Are you able to share some data with us?
I don't have the figures. The records are not there, given that these are illegal. These are illegal events, but it's widespread along the coast. Widespread in the sense that it's across the entire coast, but the incidence is not a lot. But it is increasing in recent times because of the reduction in catch. So fishermen, when they are not getting good catch, some of them, the bad ones, go in to use any means at all to survive.
Prof, a little education on this, especially with dynamite fishing. How exactly is this done? And I mean, obviously, to make some more catch, but how is it done? Some education on this.
Yes, we call it dynamite fishing. Dynamite is just to tell of its power, the strength, the strength of the whatever. But it's a local preparation. Local preparation. They prepare using gunpowder and other things. They prepare it, and they come with various strengths. And depending on your money and the resources at stake, you can have a stronger one or a medium-sized one, etc. They use just the local materials, sometimes with matches and other things, to put it together, and they release it in the water. Often they deploy with their hands. So sometimes before it goes off, then it can blow your hand and your whole body, etc. And this has impacts on the water body, and we want people to stop this type of fishing.
What are the implications of these practices on the consumer? Because obviously the fish that will be harvested out of this practice, I suspect, is not wholesome enough.
Yes, they blast the water, and any fish in its way are killed. And then the people use their nets to collect them. So which means that this practice is non-selective. It goes for the big, the small, and any fish within a certain radius of the power of the explosive. So it can hurt the water body. The water body, these guns are made from heavy metal. They are composed of heavy metal substances, lead and others, which impacts the breathing of we human beings. Okay, so you see, for a fish, you see spots. When you buy a fish and you see spots, black, brown spots on the fish, it means the fish is unwholesome. Sometimes you see the gills, if you open the operculum, you see the gills darkened and all. So if you see any fish with spots on his body, irregular, not normal spots, abnormal spots, and colorations on the body that are not normal, then this fish might have been caught with an explosive. And if we consume it in excessive quantities, you get heavy metal deposition in your system, which affects the blood flow and our breathing system. Also, such things has impact on the water body. It pollutes the water, as well as destroys the immediate habitat of the fish. So killing fish eggs and other invertebrates and other organisms that the fish depends on for a livelihood. So you want more fish, but you end up destroying the entire ecosystem, such that then the fish would not even, it's like a vicious cycle.
So you talk about coloration on the fish, which is quite unusual. Is that a general rule that, fish shouldn't have such colors, such spots? or there are exceptions?
Fish have, quite a number of fishes have spots and colors, but I'm talking about abnormal coloration, abnormal spots, especially often when they are black and they are reddish on the fish, which is not normal. If you see the normal ones, you will see the abnormal ones are scattered and often not to any pattern. And these are the ones that we're talking about. We know our fishes, the fishermen know the fishes, and those in the coastal communities, you know the shape and the color of your fish already. So if you pick your fish and it's got certain abnormal coloration and abnormal spots on the body, it quickly tells you, no, this fish was not caught properly, and it's an illegally caught fish, and you should not eat it.
We're wrapping up on this conversation. I'm sure that this gentleman will be processed for court because the law makes provision for such people to face, you know, the law and be dealt with. But going forward, what do you think can be done to curb this in the long term?
In the long term, it has to do with more education and sensitization of our fishers and enforcement of the law. The fishers are getting off a lot from all these things that they are doing. They do it and they don't see them prosecuted, so they another person will also want to try it. I think that our fisher groups and our IUU groups, our community monitoring groups, the NGOs, and the Fisheries Commission should sit up and go on for the enforcement, especially the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, which has together the Marine Police and all. These things are in the communities. Please, let's sustain the enforcement. And when a number of people are prosecuted, I think that people will, over the period, stop this type of fishing. Thank you very much, Professor Anunu, for your time here on Newsdesk. And here's a fisheries scientist at the University of Ghana, bringing us some perspective on the story that we brought to you a while ago. JoyNews editor Martha Krensalakwa brought us that story. We'll follow up on this and tell you what happens to the gentleman. But coming up in business, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC, urges boss to stock strategic oil reserves as oil prices crash. Daryl Kwal has details after this break.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwal. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana has called on government to consider supporting the bulk oil storage and transportation company BOST to open a good credit line or system in order to stock oil for the country's strategic reserves or stocking needs. This follows the collapse of the price for WTI crude oil, selling currently at negative $1.58 per barrel. Joy Business Assistant Editor Novan Akwahefo joins me in the studio. So what's happening with crude oil prices, Novan?
Okay, so Daryl, what is actually happening is that we've seen some negative swing that is on the WTI. You know, when you go on the international market, there are two trading platforms. That is the Brent crude, which we, Ghana as a country, that is how we trade as far as crude is concerned. And then you also have the WTI, that is also another platform that is used. But what is happening is that due to the coronavirus and the spread of it, which is has led to the close down of borders, and countries have been shut down, a lot of lockdowns, let me use the right word, that has led to, you know, a lot of storage facilities, especially in the US, Texas, California, and some other places. You know, these storage facilities are becoming full, and because they are becoming full, there are no places for them to take this crude, and that is what saw something that was trading around $20
a barrel as of yesterday.
Yesterday in the morning, by evening, it had dropped into the negative. It actually came to minus 35.
Important to know, we are talking about WTI, which is not the crude oil Ghana trades in. We trade with the Brent crude.
Yeah.
And so, why should we be concerned about what is happening?
I think that it's an opportunity for us, and that is why COPEC is saying that, look, What Ghana should be doing at this time is for the government to be able to find the money and then get like a company like Boss, that's the bulk oil storage company, to go and buy part of this crude. Because you see, what is happening now is that, you know, owners or traders or we say producers are now paying people to even lift the crude. You understand? So it's an opportunity if we're able to open a credit line. It's so cheap now. You go and buy and then you store. Because already a month ago, if you recall, we had issues with the Boss not being able to meet the strategic reserves that we have.
Okay, and so that's essentially the call that COPEC is making, right?
Exactly, and so they feel that what government should do is to take advantage of what is happening on the international market, go in there, lift this crude, you may even get it for paying nothing, and then move it here and store it.
All right, Novana Kwahefo, thank you very much. Well, speak of Bost, the managing director of the bulk oil storage and transportation company, that is Edwin Provençal, is promising to break even at the close of the year, ending the cycle of losses the company has been making. Bost is said to have lost 569 million cedis in 2016. The same year, the company is said to have paid bonuses and dividend to government. Here's the managing director, Edwin Provençal.
Anybody at all can come up and say we are making profits, and they can give government some peanuts and say we are making profit. When the financials were audited, that was the period we made our highest losses. So it was not true. We were deceived.
I see.
Now, since 2017 to date, we have minimized the losses we've been making. From 569 million loss, we are now operating at as a 2019 management account, so hovering around 88 million.
That's a management account, and that's the kind of account you are disputing, saying that you cannot use it to make.
So let me use the audited account.
Why don't you use audited account?
So we had an audited account from 2014 to 2016. We audited the account. 2014 we made a loss of 304 million.
All right, the Boss CEO speaking about losses there. That's it for business. Sports is up next.